GT Tools here. Today we are going to be walking you through the Kong system. This is going to be an instructional video that we use this tool on this 2016 4Runner. Before we get started though, I wanted to talk about some of the improvements we made to the tool. First off, we've lightened the weight of the tool with the reduced size of the actual plate itself. We've also added a rear end winding system that matches our shortcut system. It's a dual drive, meaning you can run it with a drill or a ratchet, and you can run it from either side of the tool. Primarily with the Kong we use a ratchet, but we like this setup. It offers some extra functionality to the tool. With that, we're going to kind of get started with this vehicle. We're going to pull all the moldings, the cowling, get access to the glass, and then we're going to jump into setting up that tool and getting started. All right, so now that we have removed all of our moldings that would be in the way of us running our cord around the outside of the glass, we're pretty much ready to kind of set up the tool and kind of get started here. The first thing I want to talk about with the Kong is that there's really two positions to operate and cut out a windshield when using this tool. There's actually three, but we'll get into that in another video. Position one, the primary position, is having the tool in the upper passenger corner, and we pre-cut this bottom. We bring our cord in from the bottom driver's side corner, and those two lines run up to the tool. Now you notice there's two pulleys on this tool, so that means that it's going to cut. It's the only tool on the market that's dual cutting, meaning it's going to cut in both directions at the same time, which saves you a little bit of time. So that's position, or the primary position for cutting out a windshield. If you want to pre-cut your bottom out, taking a power tool and pre-cutting the whole bottom, you can position the tool in the second location, which is right here in the center, and you'd actually have a cord running from the driver's side bottom corner up to the tool, and the passenger bottom corner up to the tool. And that's another way to use the tool and to cut out the glass. So those are the two different positions. We're going to be working off the first position today. Let's get started. Okay, we're going to be using our 38 special, it's our power cutout knife, to pre-cut this bottom driver's side corner. That allows us to feed the cord into the inside of the vehicle a whole lot easier. So I'm going to go ahead and pre-cut this bottom corner, and then we can move on. All right, so we're gonna run our cord around the glass. We're gonna start by using our Gorilla cord, and we're gonna use a feeding tool. I'll kind of walk you through how these two things work. So the first thing we're gonna do here is we're gonna plunge our feeding tool in where we pre-cut in this corner, and we're gonna take our Gorilla cord and attach it to that tool in a notch that's located on the side of that T-handle. We're gonna go ahead and bring one end of that line to the inside of the vehicle. All right, now that we have the Gorilla cord, one end of the line or cord on the inside of the glass, what we're going to do now is we're going to bring enough of this slack into the inside of the vehicle so that it can attach to the tool, and where that tool is going to be positioned in the upper top passenger corner. So I'm going to go ahead and pull in enough to get me to that corner, and then I'm going to add an extra probably foot of cord so that it can, or foot or two of cord to allow it to run to the tool. Now we're going to go to the outside, and we're going to run our cord around the outside of the glass. All right, we're going to start by running the cord along the bottom edge of the glass. Again, this is a false bottom here, so you got to make sure that the cord does not go below the pinch weld, it goes just below the glass. We're going to run that to the edge here, and then we're going to go up the passenger A-pillar, and then we're going to head across the headliner here. Remember, when you're running this cord around the glass, you want to make sure that cord is seated down below the surface of the glass. If there's any urethane that's impeding that from happening, we recommend taking a long knife or a tool to cut some of that extra urethane out so that the line can actually sit down where it should, so that you have a good cut when we get to that point. And once we're back to that starting point, before I bring the line in, I like to estimate how much cord I'm going to need, which is about the same amount that we already have inside the vehicle. And you can do that by bringing it up to the corner about 2 feet back, and that's where we're going to go ahead and cut our cord. So now that we've got enough cord to bring to the inside of the vehicle, we've cut the material, I'm going to go ahead and bring our feeding tool to the left, my left, of the line or cord we've already brought to the inside of the vehicle. So we're going to plunge in to the left of where we already have, and we're going to go ahead and feed that line inside the vehicle just like we did with the first end of that cord. And now you can see we have 2 ends of the cord on the inside of the vehicle. This is our top cord, which is going to be cutting up our A-pillar, and the bottom cord, which is going to be cutting across our dash. We're ready to set and attach the cord to the tool and position that tool in the upper passenger corner, so let's get started and do that. Alright, so when we're setting up the Kong tool in this upper top passenger corner, what we're looking for in the positioning of this tool is for the spool side, or the butt of the tool, to be pointed down where the cord came in from the driver's side bottom corner. So we try to get that as lined up as possible, and then what we're looking for is about 1 to 2 inches of spacing between the top pulley and the headliner, and the bottom pulley and the passenger A-pillar. Once we kind of get that positioned where we like it, we're going to go ahead and pump that guy onto the glass. Once your red line indicator goes away, you know you're secured on the surface. And then we're going to take our top line and kind of get that ready to go to attach to the tool, and our bottom line as well. Okay, so we're going to start by taking our top line and taking it through our center feeding bracket here underneath our handle, and we're going to, there's 2 holes in this spool. We're going to feed it through the one closest to the line, so that top hole. And then we're going to kind of drape that around our pulley, pull out a lot of our slack, and just kind of let that sit there. And We'll do the same with the bottom line. Got both cords kind of in there. Now what I like to do before we actually start cutting here is we need to relieve some of the slack on this line so that we get multiple turns on this spool, and we'll cut off this excess cord material right here before we wind the rest of that up. What we're looking to do here is we're looking to get multiple wraps on the spool before all of our tension is taken up. Now we're going to go ahead and put our ratchet on it. We're going to start our cutting process. We'll talk a little bit about our cutting shields that we use to protect the dash and the interior garnish moldings. So we have two cutting shield options. We have a small cutting shield which protects the cord from getting into the interior garnish molding. This is a great tool or product to have for your A-pillars and up in your headliner. We also have a larger one that's got a slight curve to the bottom edge. This one is great for your dash to protect the cord from cutting that dash. So I'm going to go ahead and start by positioning that bottom one right there where our cord is that's going to be cutting across that bottom edge. And I like to operate in this first position from the driver's side seat. So we'll go ahead and get started. I've attached our ratchet to this side of the tool. Now remember, this tool only turns in one direction. It's got an arrow rotate in this direction. It's a locking back drive, so as you progress in your cutting, you're not going to lose that cutting advantage. Let's go ahead and get started and cut up this A-pillar and part way across that dash. So we're starting to cut up our A-pillar here, and we're starting to make progress along our dash. Once the cord gets to the top of that A-pillar, it's a good position to kind of just slightly rock through that corner. That corner can be tough, so we would just like to take that easy. Once you get through that corner, you're smooth sailing. So we're making progress there. I'm going to show you what we do next once you get up to the top of that A-pillar, and now you're going to start cutting across the headliner here. We have a little leash that we like to attach to the top of that cord. What it allows you to do is once you've attached it, you can pull it away from that headliner as you're cutting. A nice little trick. So when you're running across this top headliner too, remember on some vehicles you do have some setting pins and placement flanges that you need to keep the cord above. It's just something to keep in mind as you're cutting across the top. As you get to your rear view mirror, want to make sure that's on the outside or underneath your cord. Your cord doesn't want to be on this side of this this wire. As you can see, at this point we've cut pretty much to just past the center of the headliner, and we're about 2/3 of the way across that bottom there. Once I get to about there, I'm going to go ahead and reposition where I'm at. I'm going to go ahead and move to the passenger seat.
Yeah, let's just go from there.
It's important too, as you're winding the tool, to really feel the tension on the tool and the line or the cord. If you really get bound up or it gets tight, typically that means you're caught on something or something's in the way. It's real handy to kind of stay in tune with the tool and how it's cutting through that urethane. So you can see this bottom cord is almost to that corner, and again, just like we did in the top driver's side corner going up that A-pillar, when it makes its way over to that corner, it's a good spot to just kind of let it rock through that corner. So we kind of just ease it through. Okay, and we're through that corner. At this point, this leash doesn't need to be used. We're positioned close enough to the glass there that it's really not going to get in the way of anything anymore. And we can just use our small cutting shield to protect this interior garnish. I'm going to try not to use it just so you can see that cord and how it's cutting. But if you were to use this right now, you would just position it just like that in between the garnish molding and the glass, and you just start your cut just like so.
I don't know if we really need to see that coming all the way up.
Now, depending on how fast one line cuts over the other, sometimes you'll have one cord that's getting ready to unspool off the spool of the tool before the other one does. And when that happens, we can just go ahead and do just a quick readjustment of the tool. So you relieve some slack. And because this line is getting ready to come off that pulley, I'm going to go ahead and just reposition this just so slightly. We're going to go ahead and reattach that. And we are through. All right, so since we're finished with that cut, you notice that our cord, assuming it doesn't get damaged or it doesn't break, is basically preloaded for your next job. We've got the right length, assuming we have the same size vehicle. At this point, you could just, again, this is a locking spool, so you take your pawl and you can just free spin your cord off of there, and you can take the end of this loop, and rather than pulling it inside the vehicle, you can push this loop with our T-handle tool that you saw at the beginning of the video to the outside of the vehicle, and then grab that loop and pull the loop out and loop it around the glass. And you'd have both ends of the line on the inside of the vehicle ready for you to reattach to your next cutout. Thanks for watching GT Tools Kong training video. Visit gtglass.com for more information, including training videos, instruction manuals, and more details.